Okay, here we go. We're going to make this little guy, and I call it the 1x1 headlight, because that's oftentimes what they're used for. So it looks like a 1x1 block, but it's got a little bit more going on with it. Okay, so that's what we're going to make next. So with SolidWorks, we're going to go ahead and open a new profile. And we're going to design this from a side profile just because it's got that cutout in the front. So we're going to go Sketch, and we'll design on this front plane. Okay. What we know is that its bottom part is normal, its height is normal, but then it doesn't quite come out all the way, and it doesn't go all the way down. So it's going to look something in the ballpark of that from the side. Okay, so we're going to go with some dimensions we know. We know that the standard height for a Lego is 3/8. We know the standard width of a Lego is 5/16. We know that this little notch is going to be something just small, and we're going to call it 1/16. And we're going to call the height of it also 1/16. Okay, so it's going to look something like that. And we can now go extrude, and we'll extrude it the standard width of 5/16, and we'll say OK. Now we need a couple knobs. We're going to need a knob on top, and we're also going to need a hollowed out knob on the front. And we're going to have to cut out a little square area on the back, and we're going to shell the thing. Okay, so that's a lot of different features into this. Let's start with the knob on the top because that's the easiest. And we'll throw a sketch up here. And let's go ahead and look directly at the top face. And we're going to go circle. And we don't know exactly where it's going to go, so we'll just throw it somewhere right about there. And we'll make sure that he has the right dimension. The diameter should be 3/16. And let's make sure he's the right distance. From the side, it needs to be half a Lego width, so it's going to be 5/32. And from the top, 5/32. And what you're going to see, that's going to automatically put the circle tangent to this little cutout, which makes sense. You have a 1/16 of a space right there. You have a 1/16 of a space right there. And the diameter of the circle is 3/16. So 1/16, 3/16, another 1/16 is 5/16. And if you remember, the whole thing was 5/16 of an inch wide. So it all adds up correctly. We're going to go and extrude this little knob. It only comes up a 1/16 of an inch. So it's going to look like that. Let's go ahead and do the knob that is now on the front. So let's put a sketch. And we're going to put it right on this face right here, which I believe they would consider to be the left face. And we're going to put 2 circles. Actually, I take that back. We're going to put 1 circle. And like all circles, it's going to be 3/16. And from the side is 5/32 like always, because that'll center it. But here's the tricky part. How much do we offset it from the top? Okay, if you look at this, that circle is actually slightly higher when you compared to the total height of the Lego. It's not perfectly centered, but it is centered between here and here. So with this, without this notch on the bottom, it is actually centered. And you're probably like, well, what's he even talking about right now? Which is fine. So what we know, the total height of the Lego from here to here was 3/8 of an inch. But we have a 1/16 right there. So that 3/8, the total height of 3/8 is the same thing as 6/16. We have 1/16 right there. That means from this line to the top is 5/16, which means half of that is 5/32. So that is now centered within this face when we ignore this bottom ledge. That is where we want that circle to be. And now we're going to extrude this guy. we're going to have them come out 1/16, just like that. And we'll say, okay. Now, we want some holes. What we're going to do first is shell this thing. So we're going to go shell the bottom with a 1/16 thickness. We're going to say okay. And you're going to see, like we saw in one of our parts before, it's not going to go through as much as we wanted it to. So we're going to have to sketch on this face a square. Oop, I didn't click enough. A square from there up to here. Smart dimension. We need that opening to be 3/16 by 3/16 so that a knob will actually fit in there. So we're going to go ahead and dimension it like that. And features, extrude cut, that in 1/16. And we'll say okay. And it's going to give a rebuild error. What it's not happy about is that this cut is actually going to come down exactly to this edge right there, which it doesn't like that. There's probably a trick to getting that to actually happen, but let's just do this. Let's just trick it. We're going to make our 1/16 cutout ever so slightly less. So instead of 0.0625, it's going to be 0.0624. Nobody will ever notice. And we'll say okay. And now it did cut it out, and it didn't quite get through to that other surface. Okay, so there's a little trickery. We also want to open this up a bit. So I'm going to throw a sketch on this front face right here. And if you remember, this is what they considered the left side. And we're going to throw a circle right in there. Okay, because we want that opening to be like that. And if we throw a dimension on here, what you remember, this outside was 3/16, and we want it to be pretty thin. 3/16 is the same thing as 6/32. So what if we make this inside one 5/32? It's going to look like that. And we can say, okay, then 5/32? Nah, I don't like that. Let's not do 5/32. We're going to make it 4/32, which is 1/8, which is correct. That is what it's supposed to be. Because there's a lot of 1/8 type poles that would need to fit into here. So that's what it is. And now we'll go features, extrude cut. And we're going to cut that guy so he goes in. And because of the shell, that should be plenty, the 1/16. And we'll say okay. Oh, see how it didn't go all the way through? Okay, so that wasn't enough. So we're going to edit that feature. And, oh, because I took the 1 off of there. If we put that 5 back in, if I go 1/16 and hit OK, that still isn't enough. Okay, we're going to double it. And actually, you know what? Let's just do this. We're going to have it go ahead and just say go through all. Because we're going to be cutting a square. So that's the front side now looks correct. We need a square cut out here. So that circle, oops, is going to help us figure out exactly where to put the square, because the square is going to go kind of around that. So we're going to say sketch on this back face, and we're going to put a square cutout. And what I really know, yeah, I said the circle will be centered. I don't know if that's actually true, but what I do know is I want the spacing here to be 1/16. I want the spacing here to be 1/16. And I want the spacing here to be 1/16. And I know I want this thing to be 3/16 tall. So it's going to look something like that, and it does look like the circle is perfectly centered in it. And so we'll go back to our features and we'll extrude cut, and 1/16 should be plenty. Let's actually change it to 1/16 and say okay. And now we have something that looks a whole lot like this. All right, you're going to save that as a 1x1 headlight piece.